Carnival, or Mardi Gras here in New Orleans, is understood as a time of renewal. For celebrants in medieval times, it was a kind of second life for the people, a promise of the way things could be. It's amazing to be a part of. The end of Mardi Gras is signaled by the ceremonial clearing of Bourbon Street at midnight. Tomorrow is the start of Lent, a period of self-denial, prayer, and reflection, commencing with Ash Wednesday, or what the locals call Trash Wednesday. Here in the French Quarter, it's hard to imagine that nearly 5 years ago, New Orleans was almost entirely underwater. In our age of global media, no one was unaware of the catastrophe. Many of those on the religious right proclaimed that Hurricane Katrina was punishment for sins against God. For the most part, however, the response to Katrina was more charitable, with thousands of volunteers, students, church groups, NGOs, and the odd celebrity heading to New Orleans to help with the recovery. Over the course of 3 years, during the University Reading Week, students from the universities of Waterloo, Wilfrid Laurier, and McMaster volunteered with Common Ground Relief, a non-profit organization working in the Lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans.
Thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord, for the hurricane. I see your boundless love in the faces etched with pain. And thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you for the memory of the ark. You are the shining light we see when we're drowning in the dark.
Common Ground Relief is one of like 7 not-for-profits that are functioning primarily in the Lower Ninth Ward. And what we've done, Brad Pitt and Angie Jolie came to us last summer asking what they could do to go ahead and help start rebuilding here in the Lower Ninth Ward. And they approached all these different organizations. And we've set an initial target area of the levee wall, the Claiborne Bridge, up to Prier, which is where the Oak Tree is, just north of the Blue House, over to Forestall, which is 3 blocks from here. There are 150 homeowners who actually had houses in this 7-block area. Right now, there are only about 10 houses that are still standing of the 150. We've been able to find about 90 of those 150 property owners, and about 75 of them have indicated an interest in coming back and having their homes rebuilt.
I'm in the real estate business in Miami, in Florida, and but I came up here first gutting as a gutter in October of 2006, and then went back and forth, and then was asked about this time last year to start looking at in anticipation of Common Ground Relief becoming its own 501c3 for tax purposes here in the U.S. To go ahead and start looking at the books and start doing a little bit of financial reorganization.
Tom Pepper had arranged for us to interview and film some local residents in order to help Common Ground develop some promotional material. While some of us went off to chat with residents and activists, the rest of us tried to get the official story. We decided to take one of New Orleans' many disaster tours.
Okay, so how's everyone this morning? Great day for a tour. Gray Line International Sightseeing Tours would like to welcome you all today on this tour that we call Hurricane Katrina, America's Greatest Catastrophe. Before we begin today, let me introduce myself. My name is Brad. I'll be your guide today. Sly will be driving us. And what we're going to do today is to take a look at New Orleans, as it appears now just about 2.5 years since Hurricane Katrina did make landfall. And one of the things that we emphasize is that this is not a shock and awe kind of tour. At this point in time, we're not going to be showing you lots and lots of extreme images of devastation, but rather, this tour is sort of a progress report to let you know about our story and what has taken place since the hurricane and how we have progressed in terms of the repopulation, rebuilding, recovery. And so hopefully you'll find that to be a most informative, if not uplifting experience. What better place to start than right here along the banks of the Mississippi River?
We had a lot of questions about this idea of a disaster tour and how we felt about that. I mean, people have always come to New Orleans for tours. You can take swamp tours and ghost tours and, you know, walking tours of the French Quarter, and it's fun and you learn a lot about the city. But after Katrina, you know, a lot of the tour companies were sustained by the disaster tours. Now, there's a lot of different feelings about that. You know, some of the citizens felt like it was disrespectful, you know, to be there cleaning out their home with all of their possessions that had been destroyed and then have a tour bus go by with people taking pictures.
They want to build casinos. They want to build industrial canals where there used to be residential areas. They want to build hotels. They want to widen the canal areas to accommodate cruise ships. So yes, we have the sign saying, "Shame on you, 1600." You know, we can put 5,000 on that sign and still count the casualties. Mm-hmm. And no one should be making money off of other people's misery. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have to sign up. And that's why we encourage people to get out and find out what's really happening here. Mm-hmm. You're sitting up on a bus or in a van going around and looking at the devastation and listening to one person talk about how, well, don't worry about it, everything's fine. You're not going to find out the real deal. Tourists don't find out what's really happening here unless they take the time and the opportunity, if not to come visit Common Ground and other grassroots organizations. At the very least, talk to the residents and find out. And you can't do that sitting up on a bus, listening to a tour guide.
Because of the fact that they were here, they were helping the city recover by supporting a tourism industry which generates 35% of the city's operating revenue. But it also helped people understand the tale of two cities. They could see it themselves. They could see the French Quarter and all the tourist areas that they remember were open and alive, and people would say, it's better than I thought, because again, they had these terrible images in their mind. So the tale of two cities was reinforced by going on the tours, because they would see the devastation in the neighborhoods, and then they would see the popular tourist areas, and they could get a sense around, you know, what they were seeing on television and where that was compared to the French Quarter, which looks the same, if not better, than it looked when they came here 25 years ago to visit.
So we are just about to make our way back into Orleans Parish, into the city of New Orleans, and we are about to enter a part of eastern New Orleans known famously as the Lower Ninth Ward. In the city, a ward is a voting jurisdiction. This area of the city saw a tremendous amount of media attention after the hurricane, largely because this is where you'd have seen your highest numbers of fatalities, where you would have seen your largest numbers of people in need of being rescued from their properties. Now, this is a relatively low-income area of the city. I want you to notice, however, that you do not see subsidized housing in this area, nor do you even, for the most part, even see rental properties. And so, the houses that you see surrounding us here are, for the most part, owned by the people who either have or do live in them.
That's a trailer.
Right.
That's a formaldehyde trailer.
Oh. Is this FEMA?
That's FEMA formaldehyde trailer I'm living in.
Goodness.
Yeah, that's what I'm living in. A formaldehyde FEMA trailer.
And now they're saying they'll be getting rid of them and putting people in hotels?
They are getting rid of them.
But
They're taking them and putting out putting us out wherever they're gonna send us.
Yeah, into motels, hotels.
Yeah,
That
any
takes you further out of the
dump they can
community.
put us in, but I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
They're not gonna put me anywhere. This is what I'm trying to do, Bill.
Yeah.
This is how high my house is gonna be. You know, off the ground. That's the elevation right there, level. And my foundation is. You're in the roosters. You have roosters, chickens, all over here running. Oh God, they must be got somebody.
After meeting with Valerie, we took a taxi over to Algiers to speak with Malik Rahim, an ex-Black Panther and one of the co-founders of the Common Ground Collective.
Common Ground is an evolving entity based upon solidarity, not charity. It's an evolving entity or organization that is not just an organization, but a way of life. And it's one that's based upon the principles of environmental peace and justice.
And my sister called me and said that my neighbor, Chester Jones, met a guy by the name of Malik Rahim, who worked with Common Ground, and they were trying to find out about Mama's house because they wanted to help us to gut the house and to clean it out and do whatever they could to help to restore it. So my sister came down for that Christmas, which I think was Christmas of '06, and we met Malik. And Common Ground and Malik basically told me that no, they didn't think that the house needed to be torn down. I said, but everybody that I talk with says, yes, it's gonna have to come down. He said, well, you don't know who you're talking with.
Walter went on to show us where the canal levee had breached and where an unattached barge had made its way through, nearly destroying his mother's house.
50 and 60 feet away from the house. And it ran from here to this area over here. That's how long the barge was. But it did not bump into the house, but it created a lot of havoc on that house. But the funny thing about it is this. You see how far this wall goes down?
Ow, hold on.
Oh, red ants. Oh, yeah, yes. Get your camera out of there.
Oh, there's another foot.
You better get them off you.
I was like,
Check them, because they'll find you. Make sure your pants. 'Cause they'll get up there.
Yeah, we're looking all right. I reacted as soon as obviously, they used to be.
Yeah.
I'm wearing nail polish because my 6-year-old cousin painted my nails. So I get. It seems embarrassing because I'm wearing nail polish, but then I'm just like,
Don't feel
whatever.
bad. I
It's
do it with my granddaughter now. They paint my nails all the time.
After any disaster, the primary cause of health illness, whether physical or mental, is stress. Dealing with stress. Seeing a community transformed. I mean, you imagine if you was in a night ward and all of a sudden you done lost everything. Just imagine you go back home and everything that you have, everything that you love is gone. And you don't know where they at, and nobody is trying to help you.
And so this is an area of the city that flooded rather badly, in part because it is one of the lower lying areas of New Orleans, significantly below sea level, and also because, as you will discover further along, the breach that occurred to the levee system of the 17th Street Canal would have affected this area particularly severely. Now, you will also notice on a few of the houses as we pass, there are these markings that are spray painted on some of them, not nearly as plentiful as those once were to see, because obviously those as well have been removed or been painted over. But typically what you'll notice is an X mark. Now, you had several different groups that went door to door. They all made their markings somewhat differently, so these do differ one to the next. Some houses like this one would have been searched more than once and have more than one set of markings visible.
This was the guy house on the corner here. I was telling you, drowned. His house floated by the red light over there on top of the laundromat.
Is the 0 with the line through it, does that mean someone died in it?
Okay, yes. One DOA. These X's mean the person that's supposed to had checked the house and the date they checked it. But they lied. They're supposed to had checked this house back in September. They didn't. If they'd have found it, if they'd have checked it, they'd have found his body. They didn't find this man's body till that December of 2005. So they didn't. They just said, knock, knock, anybody here, I guess.
Look, the roof looks good and everything. So now on this one, that one side has it and the other one doesn't. Look at that, that image, right? The X, the old X, the new X over the old X. Canada, you can't even imagine. Here's two more. These are awful. What is this one? Is this the first one? That's the first notice that they give. That's not even sent. That's not even sent to the to wherever the resident is now. And they get 30 days, I believe, on this one. Once they get this, they get 30 days before they get this. And after this, they get 10 days. So this is under the Good Neighbor program.
One thing our country as a whole have a tendency of doing, giving some of the most dastardly deeds, some of the most blessed names, the Patriot Act, the Good Neighbors program. But then when you look at the Good Neighbors program, you would see that it's basically a way of taking people property.
What the city is doing is further victimizing the victims. So these folks, property are falling into disrepair, grass not cut, debris not removed, no repairs done and so forth. A lot of them, as I mentioned, 230,000, in excess of 230,000 of them are still evacuees. They are not independently wealthy. They're still waiting for some infusion of cash to come in. While they're waiting for that, setting up in Maine or New York or San Francisco or Nevada or Utah, the city's saying, oh, look, property, nobody's there. We'll give you a 30-day notice to get your property in order. 30-day notice. People ain't got no money, but they're supposed to get that property in order in 30 days. And then eventually they condemn the property, and then they come in and they confiscate it. If there need be, the law is on their side. It's called eminent domain. They'll implement eminent domain, take the land, just like that. Property has been in the family multi-generation, just lost, just like that. You got nothing.
It is no longer in effect anymore. It was stopped. The city officially pulled the plug on that project. The Good Neighbor program was a program where you could report a house that was abandoned and ungutted and open and a hazard, and the city would come out, send inspectors out and judge for themselves if it was a health hazard, imminent danger, imminent threat, whatever, and they would approach the owners and try to get them to correct the situation, or the city would take further action. So let's put a nail, we'll put a nail right at the top of this sash into the jam.
See, the grassroots organizations like ourselves, we want New Orleans' original inhabitants, those who are here to remain. And those 230, in excess of 230,000 evacuees have still not been able to come back home to return home. This is our vision. But we want them to come back home to something. We want them to have schools. The majority of the schools have not been reopened, or the public schools still have not been reopened. We want them to have available to them medical facilities. 2.5 years later, most of the medical facilities in New Orleans have still not been reopened. We would like these folks to have jobs at a livable wage job. And a high percentage of the jobs, too many jobs in New Orleans are damn near slave wage jobs. Especially the jobs in the tourist industry. This is a tourist town. A huge percent of the jobs, at least 50% of the jobs in the tourist industry, are paid $3 or $4 an hour with no benefits. No benefits. So that's why you find homeless people. You can go anywhere in New Orleans and find homeless people, and the vast majority of them work.
Like many other cities in America, New Orleans has a certain homeless population, and there are several different organizations that conduct feeding operations in this little area of the city. Very soon we will be making our way out toward the Louisiana Superdome. If you've arrived to the city from the west, then certainly you've noticed the rather nicely refurbished facility, as it stands in rather stark contrast to the way that it appeared just after the hurricane. The cost of that repair work is come at approximately $180 million, was paid for in part by an insurance settlement and in part by the NFL.
As we speak, FEMA is getting ready to kick out approximately 100,000 people from FEMA trailers because those trailers were deemed to be toxic.
Yeah, I have a respirator, an inhaler, and I also have a breathing machine. You developed a terrible respiratory problem.
From your trailer?
From the trailer. You develop asthma. It's a number of things that's killing us. It's a slow death. It's like a slow lethal injection, I call it, that FEMA is doing us. And FEMA was aware of the trailers. They kept it quiet till Washington found out about these trailers. And they're not trying to move us into nothing better. They didn't have to put us in this, and they knew it was full of formaldehyde. But it's government. This ain't America. They don't care about us.
Down the road, I see thousands of people returning home, original inhabitants, to continue the culture that they created. Rich people didn't create this culture here. Slaves created this culture here. Poor people, working class people, people oppressed, people exploited, created this culture, created the music that made America famous, right here.
Further along, also up ahead to our right, you will see the Martin Luther King Public High School as well as the public library, both of which have been completely refurbished, open to the public, looking really nice here. The lower Ninth Ward is also the home of New Orleans music legend Fats Domino. You may know that he was rescued from his property here in the lower Ninth Ward, was brought to safety. He has since returned to the region and will very soon move back into his lower Ninth Ward home, as it is well on its way to being refurbished, thanks to a generous grant from a nonprofit group called the Tipitinas Foundation.
They have this program set up that the federal government funded money called Road Home. They misnamed that program. It's really not the Road Home. They're not giving people enough money to rebuild a house here. Money was allocated $150,000 for a household to rebuild a house here. People are not getting that. They are giving them $40,000, $30,000, $8,000. You can't build no house here, and they're wearing us out with the stress. We're at the bottom of the barrel.
Well, we were just out in St. Bernard Parish this morning. Actually, last night I was out to visit a friend, and they had the X's on the door here. I said, those weren't here a week ago. Wonder what the hell.
That's for demolition.
That's for demolition. They have 10 days to appeal that. They have 10 days to put their paperwork in, and then if not, that's it.
Then they're calling you.
It's ridiculous to let it drag on as long as they let it go, like New Orleans is doing.
Yeah, but I called one guy whose property was for sale. I said, did you know you got a demolition X on this? He said, no, but I'm keeping up the grass. I said, no, they've changed the game now. If you're not actually rebuilding now, you've got 10 days.
Go get a permit.
So they just keep switching up the game. People think they're doing right, and then...
No, people think they're going to get by with as little as they can. These people will just go on until the cows come home and go out again, before they do anything.
I don't know, we talked to a 26-year-old with a wife and 2 kids living in a FEMA trailer outside his place that applied for all his road home, applied for all this and that, couldn't get it, never got it, you know. And now they come by, he was out on a Saturday drive, came back and there was a red X on his home. So now what does he do?
Said every
Get some paint and paint over the red X.
No, it's like a vinyl sticker they put on the door.
Take the door off. Put another door on. Turn the door around. Take the vinyl sticker off.
Well, they had a red X on a place with brand new windows and doors. Then they said there was no rebuilding happening. You know, that's why they're putting that. If there's no signs of rebuilding.
That's all they did was put windows and doors on the building to meet the code.
Yeah, but they still got a red X. That's what I'm saying. They had brand new.
But the whole problem is they can't let these guys go on till 2013. Is that be okay? It will be for the next 3 or 4 years.
I just don't see the justice, and I felt for that kid who bought his first home for $119 grand, wasn't it? And he's looking at getting back how much? $9,000.
From FEMA?
The government.
From road home?
From the government. After they confiscate his house and just demolish it, he's looking at $9,000 to get back on that.
Well, plus his road home money.
He's never gotten his road home money.
But he will get it if he was a legitimate owner and filled out all the appropriate
When is he
paperwork.
going to get that? 2013?
There is one other nonprofit group I'd like to talk to you about while we are here. One called Make It Right New Orleans, and that is a group that was founded by the actor Brad Pitt.
The person that brought more attention to our plight have been Brad Pitt. You know, for the little 6 weeks he had that art exhibit up. We seen more people, had more people to come and stop and find out what was the plight of people in that lower ninth ward in those 6 weeks that would normally take a year.
I did this article with Brad Pitt, where he's getting ready to put up some solar homes over here next street.
Well, Brad Pitt is a hero in New Orleans. He has done so much for the city. He's come in with his own money and started the Make It Right Foundation. He's built homes in the most devastated part of the city. And not only is he building homes, but they're environmentally friendly. They are, you know, he really wants to make the neighborhood bigger and stronger than it was before and have it be a best practices model for every neighborhood in America.
Looks like we have a group of volunteers out here clearing the land.
I am from Illinois, and I came down, I'm trying to remember exactly, but it was not this past November, but the November before that. And then I started with Phoenix of New Orleans and was doing rebuilding work and gutting with them. And then I switched to Mercy Corps, and they are doing a deconstruction research study. So I'm involved in collecting data for them.
I just say God bless the volunteers. Without the volunteers, the recovery in New Orleans would not be as far along as it is today. These students, adults, church groups, just ordinary people coming down to lend a hand because of the tragedy. And they came down without looking for anything except to try to lift somebody's spirit.
But what keeps me down here, personally, it's like my personal development that keeps me down here. I've been working on some stuff for about like 9 months, and that's shifted too. You know, I came down to do the work I came down to help people, and I did, I'm doing that, and I did that, but I also found that there was stuff I needed to work on.
This is the USWH group. It's comprised of youth and adults from the Unitarian Church in Wellesley, Massachusetts. We've got about 10 returning members from 2 years ago when we had about 10 to 15 people here working. And we mainly worked on this house over here, doing soil restoration, getting the toxic soil out to kind of make it a more livable area.
What has it done for your congregation?
Oh,
It's it's really helped pull us together. I mean, we have not just within our own congregation, we have all, when we come down here, we have all these experiences together, and then, so a silly one, we go back, we all hug each other now up north. It sounds funny, but
it's part of the union faith in general.
But it's the youth have always done it in the north, but the adults don't. But the adults that come here go back there and they hug each other, which is kind of fun.
Because that's part of it feels like that's part of the culture in the church down here, and also like everybody, you get off the plane, like the first time we came here, we get off the plane, we don't even know half the people, and they're very huggy, they're very intimate, they make you feel welcome. And also, we were doing vinyl siding yesterday, and unlike Boston where you have everybody who's the most awful driver and like everybody's just kind of mean, like everybody would kind of like slow down, wave, be like, thank you so much for doing this work, we appreciate it, it's looking great, even though we have no idea what we're doing, but we're getting it done.
It's wrong, the vinyl siding was great. It's going to stay up for years.
You may have gotten something of an idea, having taken this tour today, as to just how New Orleans was impacted, but more notably than that, you have noticed just how we have responded in those now 2.5 years since the hurricane. Hopefully the degree to which progress has taken place in terms of the recovery and rebuilding effort has either met or has exceeded what you might have expected to find upon your arrival.
I mean, it's interesting because when we first were here, it was about 2 years ago, this whole place was, there were dead houses. You only see a little bit like that over there left. Everything else has been raised finally, but it was 7 months after the storm, and this whole area was covered with cars and just piles and piles of debris, and the cleanup hadn't really started. And now it's nice to see there's at least a few houses that people are moving into. But it's really slow progress. I mean, 2.5 years later, there's not much.
Not much been done.
Not much been done.
What do the planners see in terms of their vision for this area?
The planners is, as I mentioned before,
Yeah.
they want to make this area of New Orleans and parts of New Orleans East the Las Vegas of the South.
So-
They want massive casinos, massive hotels, industrial parks, golf courses, and if you want to have a little cottage, a little vacation cottage, then you can buy a condo for $300,000 or $400,000.
Last weekend we had the NBA All-Star game. It generated, I believe, something like about $500 million to the city of New Orleans. You had some of the richest African Americans in the country here in New Orleans. They didn't come to the night walk. We brought individuals, and one told us that they were saying that you couldn't get into the night walk because the bridge was broke, in which the Claiborne Bridge have a tendency of breaking at some of the most opportune moments. Stop them from coming there for the NBA All-Star, and then it broke again on Election Day.
NBA All-Star was a tremendous success for us, and we're hopefully going to have him back for a future year.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it seemed like everything went off.
Well, and not only that, but the television exposure that we gained was incredible. I mean, we worked with the NBA and with their with the television networks that were here. We gave them B-roll of the city. We gave them speaking points about where tourism is in New Orleans, and so that again was a very powerful form of marketing for us. Having beautiful images of New Orleans broadcast around the world as part of the game, and having the announcers talk about the great meal they had last night or how much fun the city has been. And so that again helps overcome some of the terrible images and misperceptions that exist about New Orleans.
Most people didn't even come to the night walk. All right, so they didn't see this. Only thing they seen is a city that have recovered. Not a city that is recovering, but a city that have recovered. They seeing the French quarters, and they seeing no example, no damage from those hurricanes. They seen the convention center. They didn't see any the horrors that people went through in the convention center. And the Superdome, same thing. They didn't see that. They seen everything that have recovered, you know, and that's what they left with. They left with that mindset that, hey, New Orleans is back, you know, Mardi Gras. New Orleans is back. Jazz Fest. New Orleans is back.
Since Katrina, all of our festivals just about have had record-breaking attendance. So that, I think, is a sign, you know, that Katrina didn't wash away our culture. What great proof that even more people are coming to our festivals and more locals are coming out to our festivals to celebrate and, you know, enjoy all the things about life in New Orleans. That, you know, millions of people come here every year for the food and the music and the culture, and we're fortunate enough to live it every day.
You know, they don't want to leave New Orleans because New Orleans is a city that's unlike most cities. You know, because New Orleans is a city that you don't live in New Orleans. New Orleans will live in you. You know, so you ain't gonna find this nowhere else. So, you know, some people, I don't care what happened, they're gonna come back here. Even if they have to live on a boat, they would rather live in a boat in this bayou than to go anywhere else. You know, because this is our way of life. You know, and so again, we have this. You know, there's very few places in America where you could look at families that could say, well, hey, my family been right here in this community, in this little area for over 200 years. But you got families that have been here. Families that could say that, hey, you know, well, my ancestor was a slave here, and they suffered here, and I ain't gonna leave it.
So why are you motivated to stay? What keeps you in New Orleans?
The land. My land is not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The land don't move. The house may have moved, but the land didn't move. And the land is not going to move. So this is mine. This is my land here. And I am not leaving.
So what would you say they're trying to do right here in this block, in this sort of DeLong area? Do you know what their vision is?
Well, the canal is right here. Yeah. They want to widen the canal so the cruise ship can come and park. And along the first few streets, this is their salon. Jordan is the next street. Hotels, string of hotels right there. They can get off the cruise ship. They're at the hotel. All right. So casinos.
Yeah. So would a hotel be sitting here?
Absolutely.
Right here.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh. Yes. And on Jordan, the next street over, close, which is even closer to the canal. Yeah. And then there's the canal, which would be wide, and the cruise ships would park there, and the river boats would park there. You know, so you got there. You got your little Las Vegas. You got your casinos. You know, your strip joints, and your own little Sodom and Gomorrah come in Sin City. You know, so the people saying, hey, you know, God wiped away New Orleans because it was a sinful area. Guess what? Guess what will happen? If the power structure get that way, you ain't seen nothing sinful yet. He wiped away the wrong people. He wiped away poor and working class people, if you believe that.
Thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord, for the hurricane. I see your boundless love in the faces etched with pain. And thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you for the memory of the ark. You are the shining light we see when we're drowning in the dark.